Dice, yeah, ay, ay.
Good day and welcome. I'm William, narrator for the FYI I Am Damaged podcast. What if the thing that breaks you is exactly what God uses to turn you into the man you're supposed to be? Ryan T. Reichert, retired Army Ranger, former corporate leader, author, podcaster, and founder of Our Protector Development, who went from addiction and divorce to sobriety, healing with his kids, and a life built around service. His mantra, built to break, born to heal, the moment he realised he'd tried to do life without a battle buddy, and how Jesus, recovery rooms, and hard truth-telling became the backbone of his second chance. This is the FYI I Am Damaged podcast. Now, a word from our sponsor. Oscar wrote a wonderful children's book called Logan, The Strong-Minded Little Elephant. Check it out.
Meet Logan, the strong-minded little elephant who learns that bravery isn't about being fearless. It's about believing in yourself even when you're scared. In this beautifully illustrated story, friends follow Logan through a colorful jungle as he learns to calm his worries, take deep breaths, and remind himself, I am strong, I am safe, I can do this. It's a story that helps kids, and maybe a few grown-ups too, find courage, mindfulness, and strength in their hearts. Logan, the strong-minded little elephant, by me, Oscar Luna. Available now at all major retailers and my publisher's bookstore, Milton and Hugo. Because it's up to every parent to show that their child deserves to know that strength starts from within.
Thank you for joining me on another episode of FYI I Am Damaged. I'm joined by Ryan Reichert. Thank you for joining me, Ryan.
Thank you, Oscar. So great to be here.
Now, just to start off, and generally, like when you're not listing ranks, titles, or job descriptions, how do you describe who you are to someone who you just met?
Yeah, today it's completely different because, the bio, you go off of, just like you said, rank and titles and all this stuff. Today, I'm somebody who enjoys working out, then coming back, reading my Bible, meditating before I do stuff that I actually enjoy for once in my life, writing, reading, being a volunteer at church, going to meetings, finally becoming a citizen outside of this vessel of self in such a way that it's hard to describe because I actually like helping people today. I don't know if I could have ever said that 2+ years ago. So it's different.
Now, you say you were built to break, born to heal. What does that sentence mean in your own life?
Yeah, today when I reflect on built to break, it's this dynamic of not realizing all the things that I've gone through in my life to this point were just to strengthen you in such a way that you're built for so much more. So knowing that there's going to be moments in life where, like high school, you injure your leg and, you're not playing football for a couple of years, to picking up drugs and alcohol and trying to navigate life with those in your system, retiring from the military and not realizing how much the gang and team meant to you every single day and what that would look like, to, getting divorced, having your kids not want to talk to you, what you believe is ever again, and then you heal and work on yourself in such a way that they want you in their life, because it's not like they didn't want you in their life. It's just that you were a bad actor for a number of years and broke their little hearts. So I think when I hear built to break, it's this dynamic of, really understanding that we will go through moments in our life that we never thought would happen, and knowing that it's only to strengthen us. And there's ways that all the training that I received in the military allowed me to get through certain things in life that I thought would literally break me. And when I found, Jesus, that was one of those things where, I left him for a little bit, kind of did my own thing, didn't work out real well. And today now, as I reflect upon that, it's this dynamic of I was mentioning to somebody the other day about battle buddies in the military. Like, you start off day one, you always have a battle buddy. And I don't know where this ever left me, this dynamic, because I made my children do the same thing. Like, when they're in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, they're probably, I don't know, the second time we lived there, how old they would have been, but say 8, 9 years old. They're Irish twins. And as long as they're together, they could go anywhere on post, do anything they wanted to do. And yeah, when I retired, I quit having a battle buddy around, and I thought I could do it all on my own. And I realized today the dynamic of just having Jesus in my life and knowing that gets me through anything. Ultimate battle buddy is this new, for me, way of just, not breaking, being able to get through times. Today, like I'm looking at, like, as you build a business, the dynamics of, the financial insecurities, and that, like, that's probably for the first time in my life where I was always financially insecure about it and wanting to be like the Joneses and have cool stuff, materialistic things. But I think today, when you're trying to build something that has purpose, that's a whole nother dynamic. But I kind of went on 3 different tangents there. So I'll let you reel me back in.
That's good, because I relate to that. Thank you for your service. I do have military members in my family as well. And I totally agree with that. I have my career, I have my passion, the podcast, and I would love to switch it and have this as my bread and butter. But of course, it takes time and the building and everything like that. And, it's always the effort mixed, sprinkled in with a little bit of luck. And, I'm getting to see all of that. But I love just talking to, all these eclectic people that I've been talking to ever since I got on the PodMatch service. And, I wouldn't change a thing. Every time you talk with somebody and you really connect with them, I'm like, yeah, this is worth it. This is worth it. And I got to see where it goes, and through all the trials and tribulations and everything that you're referring to, it's a, what do you call that? How they say, a labor of passion.
Yeah, it's serendipitous, the labor of love, the dynamic of, if we don't quit, I mean, I think that's the thing of it, right? This dynamic of, when I reflect on my military career, which has allowed me, after I was let go in corporate America, to go, what am I supposed to do? And you're out there just in the nebulous world. And sure, I could have went back and probably started working for another corporation, but wouldn't have the impact that I'm having today for what this truly is for me, but then also helping others, just like for you. Like, I'm not here without your platform. Like, we're not having this conversation. And so it's hard, because it will pay off time and space as long as you don't quit. Like, this will become your primary, and then whatever else you want to do as a secondary, because that's what you were given. You're given this ability to speak to others, to ask meaningful, well thought out questions that allows us to have a dialogue for however long it's going to be. And you also have the technical skills that to create that side of it. It's definitely, I look at it all the time. Like, when it comes to writing books, and someone's like, I've been writing this book for 25 years. And I'm like, all right, well, how about we sit down tomorrow and we finish this thing? Kind of, it's got to be, I should hope, after 25 years, pretty well put to bed. And that's just the dynamic of the fear, right? Like, does it put food on the table? No, not yet. Well, okay, keep the one that, does, but you just have to work a little bit. And I've really learned that of late, that it is, you say luck. I don't, luck and time in this dynamic. I really think it's just, if we keep putting in the work, the Lord blesses that work we put in, because he gave us those talents and those purpose to do it and to bring others together. And that's the whole point of living, I think, is just the community and having shared likeness, but also to make each other better. So yeah, I love it, man. It's great.
Yeah, it's one of those deals. And I know about the whole author thing, because, when I released my children's book, I'm like, everybody's going to love it. I tell people, I'm like, please don't lie to me. Don't lie to me. Like, what do you think of it? And, I'm thinking out the gate, it's going to explode and X, Y, and Z. And, it's a positive book on helping kids, and it can help adults. Adults are like, oh my God, I needed to read this, And then I'm like, man. So I'm like, all right, because of the podcast, it led me to that, and led me also to my healing journey. And I'm thinking, oh, wow, everything's going to just take off. I'm like, let me strap in and get ready to go. And I'm like, wait, nothing's moving, but I know it's like, I have to make sure that if I push, the good is going to push back. I never think of it in a negative way. So my wife is like, okay, what are we doing now? How are we attacking this and that? Came out with a song for the book, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, all right, the wheels are moving. You get used to it. And you know how people are like, oh, when I'm ready, I'll do it. I'm like, no, you're never going to be ready. And I had the discussion with my wife. She was working through some stuff. And I said, babe, you're never going to be ready. You're never going to be ready, because if you do that, you waste so much time. And a lot of people, they're hearing this. You have a passion to go through it. Dude, just do it. Just do it and adjust it along the way. That's how it works, at least for me. But it gets you curious on, how am I going to perfect this? My first couple of episodes, were trash in a sense, meaning that they were just so raw. I would tell people I did the intro episode driving down to FDRs when I was doing IT work for the FDNY, going down to FDR, phone in my hand, and you hear it in the background, the wheels on the highway, and pouring my heart out. And I'm like, just basically listen to me. I want to help people. I want to interview people who give such good gems on how to help you in your listening, in your healing journey. Like, listen, you just come on, I got something here. And one good person told me, once I was in the middle of the journey, they said, be ready to hear a lot of no's. Mm-hmm. It's like, what do you mean? I was like, I got something here. Somebody always wants to share their story, and they want to share their, advice and everything. She's like, well, be ready for a lot of no's. She said, trust me. And I was like, okay, she wasn't wrong. There's so many. I would punch above my weight and try and go for like the big fish, and they're like, no. How many followers you have? How many listens you have? And I'm like, dude, I'm just starting out. I need your intelligence. I need your insightfulness and everything. They're like, no, man, come back later, but not right now.
Yeah, I mean, the long road is the shortcut, though. I mean, because the thing of it is, if we don't go through that, and they hand you the keys of the castle on day one, you just go and burn the castle to the ground. I mean, I look at, for myself, like when I reflect on things, I wasn't ready to hold the riches. When I retired, I went into corporate, and next thing you know, you're making 3 times the amount of money you're making after 20 years in the military on day one. I didn't know how to hold on to that. Like, I was just like, woo, let's go. Like, you get a car. I was like, Oprah, you get a car. Who wants to come to the Wild game? Let's go. And you don't know who your people are. I mean, everybody shows up for free ice cream, don't they? I mean, it's one of those dynamics. And so I get it today that you have to go through. It's just like building the business. You invest some money in, the shiny object over here, or some people over there. And, what do they come with? And that's part of it. I wouldn't change any of the journey to this point, because I realize it shapes every which way you see certain things, who you want to work with. You get to see people's hearts, like over time and space. Like, are they in it, for humanity, or are they in it for, themselves? And so that in itself is, it's priceless. It's worth every ounce of this. And just like you're saying, when I look back, it's like the books, like every book keeps getting better, because it should. Otherwise you're not like putting the effort in, and you're not learning anything. So, I mean, it's that dynamic. And how would live another like 30 years if, number one podcast in the nation right now? I mean, then what do you do, kind of thing? If it's that labor of love, you got to be able to sustain it and want to keep doing it. And so, like, yeah, that to me is what's amazing, because I have no idea what tomorrow is supposed to bring. I mean, stuff that happened today was pretty amazing, and certainly wasn't on the calendar. And you just continue to see that evolve. So, I mean, that's that healing, that even though we're so much better than we were yesterday, like, don't need to look back. I know what yesterday was. I'm better today. And so, yeah.
No, absolutely. And I love that quote. It's like, everybody comes for the ice cream. I'll add to that, nobody stays to clean up.
They don't.
Now, you've lived small towns and global battlefields and boardrooms, addiction and recovery. What's one thread that's been constant through all of those different seasons?
The interesting facet is I'm the only common denominator in all of them. The teams are different. My faith was different. There's so many different pieces, but when you talk about the commonality of it, it's me. Good, bad, right, wrong, whatever it looks like. And so, Yeah, there's a lot of pain in some of it. I was just actually at a family member's wedding out in Arizona last weekend, and reconnecting with some of the family members. And since I've started this journey the last 27 months, I guess, since I sobered up, but really, between the podcast and the books and speaking and so forth, it's over a year now, I guess, and realizing that you start to open up those can of worms, and I'm not looking to hurt anybody in any of it. I'm just wanting to heal those generational curses, the family traumas, the things that people are trying to hide under the bed, and take to their grave. But I think without me doing that, my daughters will have to take on the things that I don't want to face and talk about and put out there, and fight the devil over. So to me, I can't, no matter what happened to me. Like, if I know the truth of it, like, I'm going to speak of it. So that in itself is, when I look at, I was a common denominator through all of that you're talking about. There was a lot of times that the living truth wasn't going to be told, because that could change the equation, the dynamics of life. And I realized today, the only way to solve a problem is by telling the truth. And there's three truths to every story, right? There's yours, there's mine, and the truth. And so that to me is all right, though, because I know I can go to bed at night knowing, hey, X, Y, and Z happened. That's what I believe. And you know what? That's the story I'm sticking to. And I'll clean up my side of the street, because I guarantee the stuff that I talk about, like, I certainly wouldn't want to keep talking about it. It's probably not conducive to, running for political office or whatever else in the world that you want to get in life from the human side of things.
Well, but I mean, with my own perspective, that type of vulnerability, it breeds strength. And, with everything that you've been through, people, and you have this forward facing and you're honest about it, others are not. And that would lead them to say, hey, if he's able to do it, if I find somebody so outspoken about everything that they've been through, I can do that. And not worrying about what everybody else thinks. And it's just, you're so honest to yourself, and that's valuable within itself.
Yeah, no, I like that perspective. Like, it's like that self-validation side of it, where you just kind of, you don't know, right? Like, sometimes, but I think, like you say, being vulnerable and trying to help, right? Like, it's, if I can make it through it, anybody can make it through it. Not wanting to give up. This book that we're reading called Seen, for the junior high kids that we teach at church, and quarter of the way through it right now. And yeah, these dynamics of, like, we just want to be seen, and having that connection with other human beings, and how important the connection with, like, our parents is. And as I was reading it today, flying home, realizing, like, wow, yeah, I mean, it's still that dynamic in life of wanting to be wanted. And if you don't have that, how scary, I guess, how quickly, at least myself, where it's a pretty lonely world out there if you're all alone and no one's in your world. So yeah, I appreciate that, Oscar. Thank you.
Absolutely. Now talking about vulnerability, you're open about being a recovering alcoholic and an addict. What did rock bottom look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, my rock bottom was still pretty nice when I definitely find myself in other rooms. It was about 18 months post retirement from the military. We had moved into, I guess, what we believed was our, next 10-year house. And it was quite lavish, probably like 4,500 square feet, 5 bedroom, 5 bath, put in a swimming pool. We had the luxury automobiles with like a Land Rover, and I was still driving my old Chevy, I guess, at the time. I guess I was humble in that aspect, but everyone else had a nicer car than I did. When I reflect on it today, thinking about my psychiatrist telling me whenever I did sober up, like, I was going through your file and you didn't have any flags in here and stuff like that. And I'm like, I lied every assessment, that was ever given of how often you drink. I mean, I've been doing that my entire military career. And it's so sad, because it's there to help you, that assessment. And, in my recovery, it's my addiction, to think that you don't have a problem. My former spouse, thinking back, like, do you think you have a drinking problem? I don't have a drinking problem. And yeah, when you mix them with all the things that I was on, from my disability stuff with the military, it just wasn't good. And I think I was always running from something. So my youngest daughter did ask me, like, after I sobered up, like, do you think you're a real alcoholic, Dad? And I was like, wow, like, you didn't see the times that, but I guess once they went to bed, I just, go off in my own world. And, it's weird today because when I reflect on it all, you don't play back like the versions of, maybe there was never a version, I guess, of being, I wasn't kind. I think that's the one I struggle with the most. Is I was very vindictive. I was very quick to hurt, with my, silver tongue, as they might say. And I think that's the stuff for me that I really think about, of just, I was hurting like those you believe you loved and so forth. And that's where I struggle with, I guess, the biggest thing. And then all the little one-offs, like getting pulled over and not wanting to shut things down in life, or the little nudges, when I was in college, getting arrested, like all these different things that you're like, why did it take so long to see? My dad's a recovering alcoholic. He's a Vietnam veteran. In March, he'll have 41 years of sobriety. And he did it in a super small town, the town that I grew up in. I can't imagine what that's like. I'm doing it in a metropolis of 3.5 million metroplex. I can kind of come and go as I please anywhere and just be a nobody. But when you're somebody in a 350 person town, I can't imagine what that was like when I reflect about it. But getting back to your question, though, it looked pretty good. Like, honestly, when I think about like the woe is me's and the poor me's and stuff like that at the time, when I was going through the first, 60, 90 days of it, and going to AA meetings every day, and my sponsor kicking me in the butt when I need it, still kicks me in the butt when I need it, kind of thing. If I'm having a day, and, I tell him when we're at Bible study, like a week later, he's like, oh, did you think about calling somebody? And I'm like, yeah, I still need to work on that. It sounds good here. I can, kind of reflect on things, but you still have moments of that self-doubt and the anxieties that creep in, even though I have a pretty good way of doing business today that seems to work for me. But we're still human. We still have, like I said, doubts, fears. We still have two adult, girls that are, one in college, one soon to be in college, and you still think about them and how they're doing and where they're at in the world. So but it's amazing to reflect on it today. Best thing that's ever happened to me, put it that way, is finally sobering up, and now know today that, like, I take great pride saying that I'm an alcoholic and an addict, because if I could do what I did to get the drugs and the alcohol and everything else that I was doing in life, you apply that to being an entrepreneur in business, like, you'll have pretty good business and pretty good life. It's just, you got to be able to take some of those licks that first, year and a half. That definitely still learning today too.
It's not easy. Like, I had a friend then who went through recovery, and like, there's one point in time that sticks out when he was going through it. I told him, I was like, I told him the same thing. You think you got a problem drinking? He's like, no, it's a problem that I don't have a drink. We laughed it off and everything, but I'm like, but when he sobered up, I'm like, dude, do you think you have, like, I told him, I'm serious. Do you think you have a problem? He's like, I don't know, maybe. I'm like, all right, you need any help, let me know. But it's like, I can't hold your hand. You got to be ready for it, Now, on your podcast, you ask, why does this always happen to me? And then flip it from victim to victory. What helped you stop seeing life as something done to you?
I don't think it happened. I don't think that happened right away. I mean, I think it was like going through the divorce process that really like showed, I think, my whole life. When I really like peel it back, I didn't realize, my dad was still drinking for the first 6 years of my life. And so between him and my mother and whatever life looked like, I can't really remember. I mean, I remember bits and pieces of it, but I think the bigger thing that I remember today is like being abandoned, or feeling that I was abandoned. And, being born and raised Catholic, it was this dynamic of like a punishing God versus a loving God. Just my perception, right? Like how I believed it to be, not realizing that like Jesus Christ, like inside of us, he's never gone. And that's the cool thing today. I know that. And it's like talking to my invisible friend, and people are probably like, that dude's crazy. And I love it, because I'll take that on any day of the week. If this is what crazy is, like, sign me up, because my life's so much better today. but it's really this dynamic of when you realize like who you believe like is supposed to like love you most in your life. And granted, like I did a lot of Heisman Trophy poses, kind of thing, keeping everybody well at arm's reach and those people that I should have been loving as well. And realizing though that that was what was necessary to create this. And so that to me is where you have this flip in realizing that in that only in that the greatest pain, whatever our greatest fear is, mine was like, I guess, becoming my father, and to be told that, like, hey, you're just like your father, or like, do you think you have a drinking problem, or this, that, whatever it looks like. And then to finally go like the strength it takes, like to keep going every single day when the cards are stacked against you, you don't have any friends anymore. Like, what do you believe? And then who believes in you? And then when you start to realize and see that, there's one or two people that still believe in you, but it's not the people that you thought would be the ones believing in you. Like, you want to talk about the redemption factor of that, and then believing in, higher power. I'm sorry, I got to say God, Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit. It's just one of those things. I get it. You can say the universe, you can say whatever.
No, it's what's in your heart. I don't like people deferring just to be generalizing it. I was the same thing. I grew up Catholic. Puerto Rican from New York, and that's like the default. And going through all of that, listening to a lot of things that you got to be self-judging and everything and X, Y, and Z. And I still have God in my heart, but I love the sciences. I love a lot of other things. I acknowledge what other people are doing and go through and what they believe. And there's nothing, when I tell people, I'm like, okay, if you have an issue with me having God in my heart, the issue's not with me, it's with you. And if you're curious about discussing it, let's go. Otherwise, I respect you, I love you, and you believe what you believe, even if it's nothing. And that's okay.
Yeah, I think, that's a really, the way I look at it, same, right? This kindness, I just actually, part of my TEDx that I just actually gave the other day is, no matter what the situation is now, it's just literally being kind. And because, like, we don't know each other from Adam. And so this dynamic of, smiling, saying please and thank you, saying excuse me, I'm sorry, and then just continue to do that. It doesn't matter, insert, just like you said, someone who doesn't like believe in anything, whatever that is, fine. Like, we don't need to have the beat. Like, I'm still going to smile at you. I'm still going to open the door. If I get to the door before you, if there's something that works out, like, would you please hand me that? Fantastic. Thank you. If I bump you or like something happens, they excuse me, and then the apology of I'm sorry. And then it doesn't end, it's like, oh, I only have to do that once a day to one person. No, it's like every interaction you have in life, like, you should carry that with you, because the ripple effect just is endless then around the world. And we so get into that, this dynamic always of, you don't look like me, you don't talk like me, you don't this, you don't that. Like, it's like, it's okay, and the perspective in life is such an unbelievable thing to have, is like, our perceptions, like, is what defeats us, like having that inability to change or be changed, just literally go like, okay, this not for me, but I have the open enough mindset to go, all right, yeah, I get it. Or you move to the left or the right and you go like, oh, okay, I totally get now what you're talking about, because you moved. And yeah, I get that. Growing up in a small town, I'm glad that I was able to see the world, because when you only see, this much of it, when I say that nowadays, I guess TVs are, if you don't actually go out and see the world.
Who said it? I think it was Henry Rollins. He was like, that I can't say for verbatim, but it was basically, he said, you really want to open it to the point of fact of travel. He said, you really want to open your mind. You really want to go beyond your own borders, in a sense. And again, these are not his words. I'm just, summarizing it. But he's like, you have to travel. You have to travel. You're not gonna grow beyond what you are if you don't travel. And I agree with that. And you took the two words right out of my mouth about the battle between perspective and perception. And it's so amazing to me that people don't realize that common threads are so invisible, and there's always something there. So to not acknowledge someone or look at the cover and just say, like, I don't have anything in common with him. Like, are you serious? And then you have a good conversation with somebody like, man, we have so many things in common. We've gone through certain things or X, Y, and Z, but they never make the attempt to pull on those threads to see what is connecting each and every person throughout the world, regardless of language, religion, or X, Y, and Z. You're going to hate me because I may have said something, or you think I am something or someone or whatever. It's like, dude, just stop. Like, okay, not everybody clicks. Not everybody clicks. But through that respect and wanting to learn with somebody, I do that all the time. And you see the conversations peter out, and I'm like, okay, all good. They don't know me. Maybe they don't want to. But once I say something that hits and that thread goes, twangs, and it's like, I see that look. I'm like, oh, I said something. I said something. You've been through it or whatever. And then I hear that all the time. It's like, it's interesting you said that. Like, all right, let's talk about it. And it just makes it so much easier to relate to a lot of people. And it benefits us, like doing what you're doing. It must have been nerve-wracking doing the TEDx and everything. How was that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's really hard because I'm a Holy Spirit speaker. The dynamic of having to be scripted, but I laugh because I think if you were to go off the script that took, I don't know how many months that we curated over time and space with the TEDx Duluth team, I think I made it 4 sentences before we went off script. So, I mean, I at least stuck to the script a little longer than I probably thought I would even make it. But yeah, it'll be really interesting, I guess, when it comes out, like for me, because, everyone, obviously they didn't know, that I was off script per se, but it was very, like, that process for me, very nerve wracking, because normally when it comes to speaking and so forth, be like, okay, what topics do we want to cover? Like, I'll certainly make sure that we work the framework of X, Y, and Z into it, but just know that it's certainly not scripted. And, I did have slides like to keep me on like a little bit, like throughout later on in it. But it was a great experience. We'll see if I want to go through the application process once again, and then the curation of it. They do an amazing job. They got it figured out, obviously, on what and how they want it to be as their brand and their program. And so I'm extremely grateful that I was accepted into it, and then able to make it across the finish line. The other speakers, that's what I was so blown away by, was just the rest of, like, every single person before and after was just like, notes. Okay, need to connect with them. Would love to, work nonprofit stuff together, do all these different things, because I think that's what's so cool, is just seeing the perspective that I have today of all people. Like, just like you say, if I, maybe we don't talk the same language, like they operate on this hemisphere and this is more me, but I always have that ability to just be open-minded and go, like, I know there's a commonality somewhere, and we can help each other, like, make more, make better. And so that to me today is where I really, really have that, just openness, where before, gosh, I just didn't. It was just so close-minded, so just bullheaded, or whatever you want to call it, that I had it in my brain that this is the best way to do it, and this is how we're going to execute it. And I guess maybe I'll take a little bit of, whatever, but don't really need it. And now I'm like, I'm not an expert at this. Like, who can we get on the team that does that? All right, perfect. Like, this is the vision that I like. And I'm like, who are the other 7 that fill in, to make sure it works? And yeah, that today is where I can see. But I think I always did that, like, had the right people on the team. But, at times maybe I didn't, like, reflect enough. And I think that was probably the bigger takeaway, is seeing, I certainly would listen, but I think maybe the people that were closest to me, maybe I didn't, because they could see my blind spots, and I didn't want to talk about those blind spots, kind of thing. And now I want, any blind spot that I have, I'm like, please, let's talk about it, because you don't want to get too far down the tracks, because it takes a long time to, turn the train around, per se. And that is what I get, because I don't want to, how did I put it the other day? Like, I have dreams again. And so therefore I want to see those come to fruition. And so knowing that time is finite and have no idea what my runway looks like, the things that you want to try to help the world, right? Like, solve world hunger. We don't have a a problem there. We have a problem with like controlling that side of things and that dynamics of it. And so, how can we be the most or best at serving others? And that to me is just a different, that's foreign. That was so foreign to me, so selfish.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like, where can I help? Where can we help? What do you need? Maybe know somebody. That to me is like what I love about having that different perspective.
And that's great, because it's like when you can't do that sort of heavy lifting and you know somebody who can, and making those connections are just as fruitful as and gratifying as doing it yourself. Now, with what is our protector development and how do you explain it?
Yeah. So if we went the spirituality side of it, our protector development
every side
is the good Lord. If we take the science side of it, our protector development is obviously 23 years of military service and sprinkling some corporate Fortune 500 on top of that, and then picking where I left off, I guess, in my Catholicism transition to Lutheranism, now to being just a follower of Jesus Christ. It breaks down basically every side of, how do we, or what do we really want? What do we want? And then versus what does he want? Because we kind of talked about this in the beginning, the dynamic of what we believe we want. What does that look like? I think when I was in 6th grade, I wrote down a little 3x5 card. What do you want to be when you grow up? And it was either a firefighter or a professional football player. I'm like thinking about it. It's like, okay, cool. You were an airborne ranger in the Army. And so I think that's kind of like being, if you took the football player, ran really fast at the firefighter, slammed them together, there you go. And when I look at it now, it's just basically having the ability to, coach people either in a group setting or one-on-one. We have multiple courses that we built, the book series, different things to basically have personal or professional growth in everything that you do under the sun, taking it from somebody that's gone before you, failed multiple times, and realizing, just like you said, if you knew it was 1,000 no's for you to be the #1 podcast in the universe, how fast would you pick up the phone or run to every business, whatever it took to take those no's, right? Just keep getting punched in the nose, the nose in the nose that you're going to take. And it's so very true, because I had someone ask me that this past fall. They hadn't found the one yet in life. And I think they're probably in, their late 30s, and they're like, hey, do you mind me asking for some, advice? You've had a failed marriage, and just kind of curious of like certain things, each is. And I was like, well, I appreciate you putting it that way, because that's the first thing that I would adjust the target on is, the dynamic of failing. I don't look at it as a failed marriage. I look at it as like a 25-year relationship with someone that, we had some really great times and we had some really hard times, and what lessons could I take from both of them, and so forth. And sure, you want to call it a failure. It's semantics, right? Like the dynamic, if you get laid off from a job versus getting fired, right? No matter what, you don't work there anymore. So what are you taking away from that situation? And when I look at our protector development, that's the thing, is curating so many years of mistakes and lessons learned. And it's only a failure if you never get up again. And, like you only lose if you never get back in the ring, kind of thing. I just think about, like, at times, if Ryan had his own way, I would have certainly not started a business. I certainly wouldn't be writing books for a living or wanting to speak on stages that, you don't know, like, when you show up, what's going to happen, or this, that, the other thing in front of, anywhere from 5 people to 500, I guess, some of the stages. And you just think about it knowing, I think today my bigger one though is, and that's why I love so much with like the podcast or anything that is recorded, is it's out there for someone to continue to learn from, whatever that looks like. And, my mother taught for over 40 years. And, I think of it today, my grandfather was an educator, also a businessman, and also a lot of other things. And that's like what's so special about it is you're teaching. So therefore, like, others, like, if they pay attention just a little bit and they take something away from it and go like, okay, I get it. Like, but why did it take so long, Ryan? It's like, well, if you're part of the slow learners club, maybe you grew up in North Dakota, and the North Dakota public education system, and mom, no disrespect, because I know you're a part of it. This dynamic that it's just some of us, like I had to lose part of my thumb, like to go like, yeah, you probably shouldn't like hold wood this way and use a hatchet that way. Right. Like, duh. Then you probably shouldn't do it while you're drinking either. So, all these different things that we can see to do in such a way. But yeah, our protector development, for us today is just so others can like, speed up the process, really is what it comes down to. Like when I think about my journey to get where I'm at today, it took me 18 months. I mean, we're 27 months in this journey, but like where someone can do something in 90 days that took me 18 months, it's like all of it, business, getting themselves healthy again, getting themselves, spiritually fit, and so on and so forth. And, we just annotated it. We, put it in the book series, put it in the War of Purpose Built to Break course, like the mind spiral stopper protocol for people that, like when you're laying in bed and you're going like, why can't I sleep? Like, man, I sleep so good. Like I've never slept like I sleep today. And it's just these little things that it was like, well, that works. And I just wrote them down. And then like other guys that like I work with were like, hey man, you're doing like good. And I'm like, yeah, this is what I used. Like take it. And, it's one to see how fast guys can, and gals can take this boxed up package. They put it in, and you're like, holy cows, it works 90 days. And I know 90 days is a long time. I grew up in the 8-minute abs and then the 6-minute abs and yeah, it's 6 minutes a day for 90 days, like kind of thing. But we forget that piece of it. I want 6-minute abs in 6 minutes. Yeah, you got to kind of like work at it, just like the podcast, just like anything else, the books. I'd look back and go like, okay, the first 6 months of book one, besides my mom, but like on Amazon, I think we sold 52. I think my mom probably, the ones she bought, authored copies. I'd have to go look and see how many. I know she bought probably more than 52, but the general public bought 52. And yeah, I had the same, like, man, it's going to be awesome. I wrote a book, like, woo, let's move somewhere fancy. And yeah, so those are the things. But yeah, for our protective development, it is certainly seeing different pockets, and it's where it's like, jobs that have high PTSD and so on and so forth, and helping others there. Obviously the nonprofit side of the house, helping the recovery and addiction programs that are out there and getting that in front of the guys and gals that, not everything works. Like, right. Like Alcoholics Anonymous with the big book, like doesn't work for everybody. Going to treatment doesn't always work for everybody. So it's just, there's a process out there for each and every one of us for the different dynamics for us to become our best selves. And, I'm one of those guys that I think it's multiple different things. I want to try and work, what is the old Three Amigos, a plethora? What is a plethora? Wapo, kind of thing. And,
I mean, it works.
It does. So,
yeah. And to hit it from so many different sides, and you can tell people like they worry about that 90 days. It's like, okay, look at the performance on your phone of what you scroll through, what you access. You probably spend 3, 4, 5 times that doing something that doesn't benefit you. Like, okay, you're gonna save an inspirational quote that you never read again, or all that other stuff. And it's like I resonate with so much stuff that you said. I'm also on my second marriage as well, and I tell people, I'm like, I got married in my mid-20s. I'm like, don't do it. Don't do it. Yes, there are the outliers that it works and it helps. And I'm like, you don't have that maturity, that experience. And, you go through it. And I went through mine. Luckily now I have, I would have never gotten my 3 boys, my wife, house, all this type of stuff. And it's just like, you never really know, you really don't know what's around the corner. And taking that risk to better yourself with anything. And if you have a program that gets you right, and no matter what your denomination is, why you hesitate to waste your time, but yet you don't hesitate to waste your time, but people hesitate to say, okay, let me approach something to improve myself. Okay, maybe you're not ready.
Yeah, no, I
but
definitely
when you are.
agree. I mean, I love it. You bringing up, your Like I call it, yeah, my second chance at life, right? I mean, I've had more than a second chance at life, but this is certainly the second chance. And realizing though that there's hope, which creates that faith and allows us all to have the love that you're talking about, with, having a relationship that's been so fruitful, and you learn that emotional immaturity that we have because we don't believe we'll lose something, like acting as poor, just like you're saying, the personal growth side of it, to develop ourselves in such a way where that's what it should be all about. I guess, like when I think about life today, there's a reason, like, okay, we go to school, we learn, we read books, so on and so forth. Like, and then it's like, okay, when that ends, like, you really think we're just supposed to like go work for, 50 years? I mean, I was content with this. Like, if I reflect a few years back, like I was, hey, sounds good. I will just take this to 59 and a half. I got retirement all set up. And I'm just like, man, what would I have been doing in retirement? Like after I reflect on the last couple of years right now and what I've been up to, I'm like, what would I have done in retirement? I mean, I would probably look like go to Hawaii for a couple months out of the year, probably golf a lot. But I mean, that gets old. I know some people out there are probably like, dude, that sounds amazing. I'm like, you go golfing every single day. It's just like going fishing every single day. That's all you do. And you're like, well, that's not all I would do. And I was like, yeah, that's all you'll do for like the first 30, 60 days. And then you'll be like, man, I'm thinking about getting a job. Like, I'm not saying go do that. Like, I'm like, how about you just like pick up a book and like read, like maybe write some of your thoughts down, take up painting, learn to play the guitar, take on a couple extra languages. That's the whole point of life, is like for it never to get like monotonous and doing the same thing over and over. You talked about it. Travel's the greatest thing out there under the sun. And you get to see so many different people. Like yesterday, we were out in Phoenix and we hiked Camelback. And after 3+ hours, I don't know if I'd say, hey, it should be the first one that you climb out there, but there might be some other ones you might want to do first. But all the different people that either, passed us, which I think we had more people passing us, both coming and going. I mean, we had a guy actually that, he only had one leg with crutches and he blew by us and, the other way down kind of thing. That was pretty impressive. But all the different personalities, and seeing people from Germany, that we talked to, or, whomever it may be, it's just so neat. Like in that, like the one common denominator was the mountain, the rest of it didn't matter. And what was so cool is like, yeah, if you were stopped, people asking you doing all right, or like when they were stopped, like you asking them, having a little chit chat, catching your breath, and then obviously conquering it and so forth. I mean, that's what life is all about for us. And so when do you finally realize that? Or do you go your whole life and you just let it all just,
Yeah, I mean, I
regret?
hate seeing, well, it's a strong word, but it's kind of true. It's like I hate seeing people walking around with like self-imposed borders, especially when you meet somebody, they impress you with certain attributes that they have, and then when you hit that spot, then you see them and you see them just like they're walking around in a box. And it's so self-imposed, and it's like you don't have to do that. And I love when people get curious about their healing, because I've been through it, getting curious about what they can do outside of what they perceive what their norms are, and for you to acknowledge that and go through what you've been through and then shining that onto other individuals. It's I hope that this opens a lot of people's eyes to say, okay, I shouldn't be held back by anything, and then what am I capable of in such a positive respect? You have love in your heart, you have God, you have whatever it is that you have, and it's what can you do that gives you that joyous nervousness, like, oh my God, I'm about to just do something I never did before, and I am getting better from how I was in the past. And that enjoyment is better than anything else you can do, whether it's chemically or anything else. And it's, I wish people can experience that at a young adult age, to know that, what, be fearless, be undeniable, be everything that you can to show that nobody has any limitations to them. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your situation is. There's no limitations. And once you figure that out, you're going to be around a whole bunch of self-imposed rock stars rather than little silos walking around just peeking out going, can I do something yet? Can I do something yet? And then, like, no, that person's built for that. No, you're built for that too, in your own way. Stop limiting yourself.
Yeah, I think that's the big one that I've learned, just recently, probably the last 30, 60, 90 days is the illusion of illusions. Like, we just literally start stacking, bricks, and we build walls, and next thing you know, we'll go this route. I'd never had like a overdrafted check, before in my life. And I don't know when it was, like, first time that I did recently within the last 2 months. And, I was waiting for like the overdraft police to show up, kind of thing. And you know what? They still haven't shown up, kind of thing. And I was talking to a guy, he's quite a bit older than me. And he's like, I've never had one of those yet. And I was like, hey, just to let you know, there is no overdraft police. And he's like, oh, well, that's good then. I don't have to worry about that. Like, no one's ever talked about it. And I just go for it. Take the leap, whatever it is, whatever you want to do. My youngest is either going to go to the University of North Dakota, which was her mother and my alma mater, and many of us that went there, and the Reichert, Zimney, Halverson clan, I guess. And she also got into Hawaii Pacific University on Oahu. So in a couple of weeks, we'll go out there and tour it so she can make the decision. And I've already told her, I'm like, if you got one inkling you want to go to Hawaii, you go there. You can always first semester be like, it's not for me. I'm coming home. I want to see my sister more. I want to see mom and dad more. I want to see the dog more, whatever it is, or just not for you. Like, going to the beach every day. But to me, a lot of people would look at it and go like, well, which school? Obviously North Dakota is going to be cheaper, a lot cheaper, less expensive. Excuse me. You wouldn't use the word cheaper. That doesn't. Quality and so forth, with the education between the two. I laugh though every time I come across somebody that says that, because are they somebody that did that? Are they somebody that had to make a decision about your dream college? Possibly. I think back to when I was her age. I mean, this is going back 30 years now, I guess, at this point. And, I couldn't get into West Point at the time. They wouldn't take waivers, and I have hardware in one of my knees, and I didn't have a second option lined up. I was like, I'm going to West Point. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. It didn't happen. So then where did I go? I went to the University of North Dakota. It was wonderful, and no problem with that. But it's like, if you don't have a second option, like, you just, like, your dream, whatever X was at that time, that's what it was for me. My number two was, so sometimes number two is basically okay though, because it puts you to show up and, you go down that road for 25 years or whatever it looks like. And then you find yourself like here going like, I'm taking a leap and I'll build this airplane on the way down, and it's wild to go, we're still doing it every day. We're building something new. We're doing something new, something I've never done before. And that's what's so cool about it is it's like, well, how do we know if we failed? Well, you don't, because you're not quitting. And so, yeah, it's something you just keep going. I mean, tomorrow will come when tomorrow gets here, and today's going pretty darn good.
No, I've had 47 years on this planet, and I never would have thought I would find my passion at 42, 43. And it's a different feeling. It's a different feeling approaching it at this age. I tell you, I interviewed somebody who was in Hawaii, and trust me, she's like, no, I love it. She went from Philly to Hawaii, and she's like, I surf every day. I'm like, aren't you scared with the sharks or whatever? She's like, I don't care. And she's very, very grounded in herself. And I'm like, wow. She's like, yeah, come out here. It's beautiful and everything. And I'm like, maybe I will. I gotta take care of a few things first, but that's one of my spots. That's one of my spots to go to. My wife is like, when we're going, where we're going. Yeah. Like, relax. We'll go in due time. Let's take care of a few things first. Make sure we get the kids ready. And, yeah, it's that journey, man. I swear, it's like, I think something happens in the future where I send myself all the information I received in one shot, or Almighty allowed me to do that, to be like, you want to get to this point where you are in the future. dump everything that you're going to be doing from 2022 to whenever the wheels fall off on this. And I swear, it's like I said it a whole bunch of times, but just a long story short, it's I went through something and dealing with one of my biggest traumas, and it just said bloop, right in my head. Like, this is what you want to do. Here's the name of the podcast. Here's this, here's that. And I'm like, how am I going to do this? Like, I don't know anything about this. Started, small and everything, phone, lavalier mic. Now I got all of this. And I'm like, I tell people, I'm like, you're not going to get any returns if you don't put in the work. If you don't put in the work, and God, universe, Jesus, everybody, they'll be like, this dude is putting it in. He's serious about this. Let's give him a little bit. Let's, give him a little bit of luck. Like, all right, meet a couple of people. One thing I'm proud of is that this put me on my healing journey. Like how you said, like how you sleep at night now. I do the same thing after a great interview, and this is a great interview. Like I sleep like a rock. I sleep like a rock. I leave everything on the table, even if I'm talking to someone who's kind of standoffish for whatever reason, and then we hit that familiarity chord, and it goes off, and I love it. I love it. People see that, they're like, no, you're really passionate about it. I say, yeah, well, you have to, even though it's a labor of love, it's still love. And when you find that love, other than, it's never going to top my kids, it's never going to top my wife or anything else, but this is like a personal love, and it's helping me heal more. Like I just found a new therapist, and I'm telling him, like, dude, I'm going through all the upside. Look, man, you can tell me to shut up when you want me to. You want me to get into my stuff, but it's like this outside of regular work. This is like all encompassing. I'm just thinking, who am I going to talk to next? Who do I have? Are these questions good enough? And X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, you know what? It's going to go the way it goes.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm damn sure going to be very, very prepared for it to the best of my ability. And even if somebody says like, dude, what is this? Or X, they have their own opinion about it. So you know what? Do it yourself. Figure it out and see how easy it is, and come back to me and tell me what's up. I had so many people come to me and be like, I want to do a podcast. I have a great idea. I said, okay, come back to me with something. And then I know you, I don't know if you do that with people, and if they don't come back to you with something, an outline or whatever, I tell them, like, this might not be your passion. It might not be your passion. If you're not coming hard with it to be like, this is my baby, I'm going to grow this and I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And all you're looking at is the dollar signs. All you're looking at is trying to be famous or whatever. It's like, no, where's that passion in it? And I see the passion with everything that you're doing, protected development and everything like that. And I'm like, you can recognize this passion. All that. This is no game.
Yeah, I guess I didn't realize, that dynamic when you reflect on just how, because we all have, like I said, dreams, right? Like I finally have dreams again. Before I just was like, I don't have dreams, I just want to die. Like it's crazy when you're in that funk and you just don't get it. And then you finally go, oh, okay, I see now, what this is all about. And it's that purpose, right? Like when you're in your divine groove, it's undeniable. I can truly see it today, I guess, when it comes down to like what you're supposed to do. And just like you said, like you got this one massive download, and it's really special when I think back to just the multiple downloads you can get over time and space. And yeah, it's your future self, right? Like being like, okay, this is like, needs a little bit more right now than you did a couple days ago. And the next thing you know, you are like, you did the podcast. For me, it was like it was books, and then like the algorithm of like things popping up your phone for the course. Like, I'm like, I can't build a course. I need some help here, and it's like, oh gosh, I don't want to spend that kind of money on a course, but I guess that's the help I need, because I don't know how to run cameras and this, that, the other thing, and certainly don't know how to edit anything. But it keeps coming that way. This is a big if, kind of like the big but, where you have to be willing to listen. And a lot of that means you have to remove yourself from whatever your current situation is. Like for me, it was removing the alcohol, prescription drugs. I was in a relationship that, wasn't conducive to, like, this would never happen before kind of thing. I would have needed to have the multi 6-figure job to, handle all this stuff, not living in a smaller place, live in just a different way. And so like that to me is like, what are you willing to give up like for your dreams to come true too? It's like a country song, right? Like the dynamic of like, you willing to move to Nashville to live in a, 2-bedroom with 4 people you got with bunk beds and, gigging on the side and working at a grocery store or, slinging hash at a cafe, whatever it is, to have all of it come true and know that it's not going to happen overnight, because if it happens overnight, it's going to leave in the middle of the night as well. And so it is that long road. That's the shortcut. And then for me, I have another saying, why do you assume that there's 2 roads? Like, I don't see 2 roads ever. Like, the hard road is the only road, because I only see one road. There's only one road where I'm going. And so that's what it's all about. And like most of the time, people aren't willing to, this sounds terrible, pardon the expression, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to say it, like, eating shit sandwiches like don't taste good. And when you got to eat them every single day, like, crazy thing is you get used to it, and like it's part of the jam now. Like, I mean, I never want to write another book, and we got another one coming out here next month, and it had all the fun of writing it, and then you get in the post-production where the editors like continue to like beat you upside the head on stuff, and like that's something. I don't want to change Happy to Glad 17 more times, but somebody's putting it in your in your lexicon, your psyche, to go, you're going to write another book. And so it's that dynamic, right? It's like every time you're like, man, I hope these questions are good. Like, it's the same. Like, I hope this book's better than the last one, and then everybody's like, it was, but then it took like this village, because now you got more people that you're like, well, you read it before like the other people read it. Like, what about this cover? What about this? And you get so curious. I think that's like the coolest thing about it. Like, I was never curious before. I wouldn't ask questions. Like, I don't need to know what Oscar thinks about this, and this. I don't care. And now I'm like, man, what do you think? Like, what's your favorite kind of pizza? Like, really, kind of thing. You're like, why is he asking me that? Like, that's so like random. It's like, well, because I had like this really good buffalo chicken pizza last night at this place. I'm curious, like, have you ever had buffalo chicken pizza? It's like, it's really good. Anyways,
thin crust margarita for me.
Yeah. I mean, you can't go wrong like sticking to this straight margarita. I wouldn't have had it either, but my friend I was with, she had it, and so I was like, that's pretty good. I'm hungry still. I want another slice, and I ate that too. No, but those to me are like, the wow moments now in life. Like, this is the wow series. Like, you and me are both in our 47th time around the sun, and realizing that, for me, it was 45 when I woke up, going like, man, I've been doing this wrong a long time, and I guess we're supposed to do it different. And now I don't want to do it any other, like, just different is the way, like, it's to go, hey, what do you think? Yeah. What do you think? Yeah. I think this. We're all about aligned, and having those like-minded people, just like you're saying before, when you're in those circles, like, and everybody's like, we're all reaching for the stars. Somebody's gone before you and done it. They've done a little different, and they're reaching for the next star. And you get enough of those people, all that horsepower in the same rooms, you just realize where you were always just the status quo was good enough. Like, you'd done enough. You got to comfort, and that's one of the things I always like, it's growth over comfort. It's discipline over feelings. And what are we going to do next? How are we making it better? How are we improving the foxhole? And,
yeah. And definitely taking the veil off of people really thinking that other people, not in a bad way, but just that they have to cater to how people care about what they're doing. It's, and I love doing that in a sense of, telling people when they're so worried about, oh, what are people going to think of this? And how do I cater to X, Y, and Z? And I tell them, I was like, nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares until they do. And when you're doing something and you're worried about what, I had that same thing releasing the book. I'm sure you had doing your coaching program. And when I did that, I'm like, nobody's gonna give a shit. There's hundreds of children's books coming out every day. There's millions of podcasts. Why is anybody gonna care? And I don't know when that bell got rung in me. I said, you know what? Then, I'm not worried about it. I was listening to the right people and understanding, and I pay that forward to let people know you'll find your audience. You'll find your audience with whatever you do, and it shouldn't. Don't read the comments. Don't worry about people's opinions, because it's easy to criticize when the person is like how you said. Yes, I believe in that as well, and I have my other views on it too. It's like there's that one road, and is that person putting one foot in front of the other and doing their journey, no matter if they're barefoot, stepping on rocks, and God knows what else they have to go through. Those people aren't doing the journey that they're supposed to be doing, but you are. And you're going to be better for it, more experienced. And, as long as you, and I tell people that, so as long as you look back and guide people through, if they got a question, like I love answering questions. Like people ask me about, like, I want to do this, I want to do that. Oh my God, you got so many shows, and how hard is it? I'm like, it's not easy. It's not easy, and you're dealing with different personalities. I had at one time, I think this happened about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I had 3 people cancel on me. Bam, bam, bam. And I was like, crap, what am I going to do? I'm like, okay. I've had people totally ghost me. And I'm like, okay. And then I would go complain to my wife. She's like, why does that bother you? And I'm like, no, why is somebody forgetting? Like, we have the reminders and this and that. And I'm sitting here for like 20 minutes waiting for them to connect and nothing. And then I have to reach out to them. Hey, are we going to reschedule this and that? Oh, this came up, my cat died or this or that. And I'm like, okay, are we going to do this? Are we going to move forward? And, rebook and do this and do that. And, my wife's like, don't that and all the stuff I've been through. I said, I'm not going to take it personal anymore. I can't. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's divine protection personally. I mean, when you kind of go back to the Our Protector development side of things, the Our Protector, like I think it's him protecting us. Like he knows who signed up, who did what, whose heart's where. And then sometimes it's like a growth thing too, right? It's like, it's not about them, it's about like you being able to be like, okay, because I've had that happen to me, and I take it personally. I'm like, what's going on? And now I'm like, actually, a guy a while back, I send him a note, and he's like, hey, I'm so sorry, I was in a car accident about an hour ago, and I'm thinking to myself, like, wow, I'm the dick here, kind of thing. And I was like, yeah, reschedule. I hope everything's okay. But those dynamics in all of us. It's kind of like the saying, especially in AA, that we have, it's like, hey, Ryan, you're not that important. You realize that. And it is so very true that like everybody's life, even if it's the mutual of having a show together with somebody, there's a reason. There's a reason why they're not there. You weren't there, whomever, whatever it looks like. And what's so cool today is like, I know now everything's supposed to happen exactly how it's supposed to happen. I don't have to second guess, third guess, overanalyze, over question. It's like the analysis paralysis of like, where are we supposed to go have dinner? What am I supposed to order? Like, kind of thing. This menu has 1,000 choices. It's like, it's all good. You're not going to, die from starving to death. Like, I don't even need to eat there, kind of thing. And so all those eaches is just enjoy it. Just know that it's all going to work out. It's just not going to look anything like you believe it should. It's going to be so much better, even if it's different, because you'll start appreciating, I think about going to my cousin's wedding. I was like, I don't know how this is going to happen, but, you take a one way on frequent flyer miles, like you do this and that, and then somebody's got a way to, pay half price for the hotel and then the rental car, blah, blah, blah. And then somebody like buys you dinner, and you're like, amazing 3-4 day trip. Had no idea how 2 weeks ago, I had no idea how it was going to happen, but it worked out. And so that in itself is like all of us just kind of need to pump the brakes a little bit, learn to really actually slow down, smell the roses, enjoy life. Annabelle, my youngest, was, I don't know, about 8 maybe, I want to say. I'm like, Dad, why are you so serious? And I was like, oh, baby, I got so much going on in my life. And she's like, you realize none of us
get out
of this alive.
She hit you with the Joker line for Batman,
Yeah.
Why so serious?
Yep. And I was like, man, it's too many times. It took me a long time to like, be like, she was right this whole time. She was right. She's 18 now, and you just gotta enjoy it. You just can't take yourself so seriously.
You gotta love how your kids just grow up differently than what you've been accustomed to or what you put yourself through and everything. Like, love that with my boys, just seeing how they're, going through and like not growing up with a father, trying to be a father to other men or potential men. It's just it's a different feeling. It's a different feeling. We tried for the girl, we've got another boy, and it's just been it's been a travel, to live life with them, and making them responsible individuals and everything. I don't know how it is with raising girls and everything. So how's it been for you?
Yeah, it's different. I laughed today because I think back to, Michelle's, well, I guess he would have been my nephew too. But, having a boy around versus girls, I was like, oh my gosh, it's just driving me nuts kind of thing. And then they got a little older and a little more dramatic, and he was more chill. And now that I'm teaching 6th, 7th graders at church, though, I'm like, these guys, boy, I tell you, it's hard for me at times. Their ability to just literally stay locked in for 30 seconds is almost impossible. And I get it though now today, because it's this thing, and it's the, I don't know, whatever the video game. I mean, I know we had Nintendo growing up and stuff like that, but I think just, we only had one TV. So the dynamics of like playing it probably was like when mom and dad for making dinner. Okay, if you got 30 minutes and you're not doing your homework, but you talk to these guys now, and obviously they got a TV in their room, they got it on their phone. They're cranking like 6 hours a day, not being, having fellowship and communicating with others. And I get it. So I can't imagine you put them in a circle with like 10 people asking them questions and stuff like that. Like, it's probably torture. Probably rather have your fingernails pulled out, because
they'd definitely rather do something else.
Yeah. And so I get it. It's hard. So I know the dynamics of boy, girl, girl, boy. And like now it's hard. It's certainly seeing them, they've had boyfriends and stuff. They're 18 and 20. And, one of them has a boyfriend. He's amazing. Right. Like, and I'm like, I was like, oh, I'm good with this guy. And then I think back to myself, like I was 22 when I got married, and be like, and then see my cousin get married this weekend at like 30. I'm going, yeah, wait till you're 30, enjoy life, see the world, like get yourself right, like work on yourself, like, and find out who you are before you start to try to figure it out with like, what's life supposed to be like with another person. So it's kind of interesting to reflect on both sides of that one, and know that, there's still my, little princesses that you took to Disneyland or Disney World when they were little and got their hair all done up and stuff. And know that for me, though, I know the good Lord's got them, whatever happens while they're at college, and enjoying sorority life or whatever it looks like. It's basically for them, it's their life, and they get one of them, and they got to kind of figure it out. And, I just let Jesus take the wheel. I know, sure my parents have plenty of times of going like, man, what did Ryan get into now? And so it makes me laugh to see it, because now I know, like, I might open my mouth and let stupid fall out every once in a while, but I think for once in my life, I'm finally trying to do the right thing. I'm living my purpose. Even though, like, you'd say the military, this, that, the other thing, but I was living it in such a way that this is a lot different, because now every interaction, every person, it's like, all right, can you make eye contact? Can you smile? Can you ask them how their day's going? Because I know I'd want somebody to ask me that, like, hey man, how you doing? You know what? I'm actually doing really well. Thank you. And how are you though? Being curious.
I love
about
doing that. Yeah. Now, let me kind of steer the shit back before we start talking about blood types and stuff. Now, one of your titles is God Only Knows When the Devil Comes for You. What do you hope readers understand differently about spiritual warfare and everyday choices?
Yeah, no, thank you. That's a fantastic question. I don't think I really fully embraced the spiritual warfare side of things until you see, like, someone, when I think about it, like knowing that, I would have died for him, change. And you're like, how is that possible? And it is this dynamic of spiritual warfare and the ability to change who we are, like for myself, for whom I may be talking about, and realizing then what does that what's that take to get through it, and the dynamic. So like a lot of people would be like, well, you did that, you're an alcoholic, and like you went to strip clubs, and like you did this and you did that. Like that in itself, would be like, that wasn't God knowing when the devil comes for you kind of thing. And it's this piece of, it's like, well, in sickness and health and good times and bad, yada, yada, yada. We all know how that goes. And if then that was the case, then, what changes between people, what becomes that indifference. And so for me, I'm loyal to a fault, even though I can harm people too, is that dynamic of understanding that like God only knows, like, yeah, when the devil is going to come for you, whatever it is. I drank for 33 years. I was 12 when I had my first drink, 45, I had my last. So I had 33 years in the alcohol business, realizing that you put those spirits in your body and you continue to do that, like, you're going to have demons inside you. The people that you hang out with have demons inside of them. What does that look like when, like, you're going to war and then one person removes those and starts to, heal, cleanse, and so forth? There's going to be some heavy demons out there and other people around you. And what are others willing to do if you're going to lose the kingdom? And what does that look like in human form? The spiritual forms, that's going on always, like the way I look at it today. That's always going on. And what will people do to each other? I've seen it, with my sister, my former spouse, people that you would never realize that would happen. And, it's hard because just like you're saying, though, the dynamic of having people, no one doing better than you ever throw shade because they got what they're looking at in life. And it's hard. It's really, really hard. And so, yeah, God only knows the devil comes to you a second chance at life. It does. That book takes you through it all. It has the perception side of things with my like introspection, my retrospection of growing up small, farming community in North Dakota, to, having your heart ripped out and stomped on, thinking that you could get through anything because we were together for 25 years. Losing like your first job ever in life, between working at a used car dealership to construction to, the gym, lumberyard, different things like that, the military, and it took all the way to, 45 years into life to finally say, like, you're not working here anymore. But I was in the best place ever. Like when that happened, like I was so healed that I was with my dad fishing actually on vacation when I got my pink slip. And I was like, told my boss that I was like, do you see where I'm at? I'm here with my dad fishing. Couldn't happen any better way. Now, don't get me wrong. You fast forward, like, I don't know how many months into it, because we were like smack dab in the middle of the divorce. And there was definitely some moments of struggle and, do you go back to work? Like money's tight. What am I supposed to do? And that was like December. So it was like 4 months. Start getting all these things like start your own business, like, build an LLC. Let's just hit this button. And I was like, all right, let's do it and see what happens. And then a few weeks later, started writing God Only Knows When the Devil Comes for You. And within 30 days, it was done. Like wrote it in 30 days, wrote the second book in like 12. It's this divine side of things that, I was just willing. One, I surrendered, and two, I was willing to listen. And then I just went to work. And so that's what I've been doing ever since. And that spiritual warfare is different now. It's more light. I have a lot of light inside of me, so like we always say, be the lighthouse, right? So it's all about helping others be able to see that rocky shore as they're drifting, out in the abyss of whatever life is going on for them.
No, I get it. And you wouldn't change your story and, not even the painful chapters because of how it was forged. With those listening, what would you say to somebody who would want to erase their past because it's just too painful to deal with or remember?
We're all forged in those fires. I think back to, a lot of the things that I would love to erase in my past, and that's what makes you who you are. That's your foundation of what you can build on. That pain is what should be fuel. That's the way I look at it today, especially like when at first it hurts, right? It's like 1,000 pinpricks of like your past or somebody from your past or whatever your life looked like previous. I always say in a previous life, and my girls always like joke, oh, Dad's going to say in his previous life again. And I'm just like, yeah, because you're not proud of that stuff, but you were kid unhealed and running from everything, right? The fear is either forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. And it took me 45 years to finally face everything and rise. And in that's that dynamic. I think when people are like, oh, I'm just too broken, or I'm too jaded, or, you just wouldn't understand. And I'm like, I guarantee I'd understand, because, I know, unfortunately, where all the dead bodies are buried. And, it's like, let's live in today right now. What can we do today? Because we can't change yesterday. So what are we going to do? And what do you want to do? That's the bigger one. Always, I say to people, like, I think about that, when guys and gals like get to that point where like, I always wanted to do this. I'm like, sweet. We get to start today. And that's the greatest. I mean, it's so beautiful to see that when people finally like realize that. It's like, unless you're like, I don't know, 200 years old and, stuck in bed. I mean, maybe you can't do something, but I just love seeing everybody at whatever age it is, like, redefining themselves, finally going like, okay, I can build upon this. And it's that pain. And that's why, the War of Purpose Built to Break, like our course, our signature program that we have, is that, right? Like, cause we all get like the purpose of war is to like fight, but the war of purpose is to use your pain as fuel and see that like you're not going to break. Like, you've been through so much. Like, I mean, everyone's been through so much, and now you just need to like work on it to heal. And that in it is like being willing to surrender your control. And that's scary. I get that. I mean, it's taken me a long time to literally just go, I am literally just pedaling this bike, but I don't get to touch the handlebars ever. And that is so like, cause at first I'm like, it's really like, you're like, man, this is so boring. Like, I just, come on, let me steer a little bit. And if you do, just realize like you're going to go off course in the wrong direction until you're willing to let go of those handlebars again. And it's just not worth it. You can totally do it, and you'll just go back to, that definition of insanity, doing the same thing you've always done. And let's see where that got you. But if you really want to chase your dreams, I think that's where, you got to surrender and let Jesus take the wheel.
Yeah. It's like being a kid again. You're like, I want to go over there. I want to go over there. I want to go over there. It's like, we can, but we're going to end up back over here. So what do you want to do? Now, with all the things that you've produced, all the stuff that you created, and the books, the coaching program, and everything, and but you have someone listening, and they listening to every single word, and it's like, well, that's all great, and that's all well and good. Where do I start? What can someone do to, whether it's something huge, small, familiar, unfamiliar? What would be your recommendation on where they would start to say, what's something that I can do to begin this amazing journey that you've gone through your journey? I don't know where I'm at in mine. So what would you recommend them to say, hey, look, this might be a good place to start, even though you may not be starting at A, be starting at, I. And what would you recommend?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I generalize it the way it started for me. And it started, thank goodness I had May. She's today a 3-year-old golden doodle, but she saved my life because I was so depressed. And I'm sober at this point, but I'm so depressed. You can't get me off the couch. You can't get me out of bed. But I had enough pride ego to go, I don't want the dog peeing or pooping on the floor. So it started with us just walking around the apartment complex, one loop. So I don't know how many meters that would have been, but not very far. And then I started reading my Bible. And then I actually started praying and meditating. So for somebody out there that none of this resonates with, it's part of our simplest coaching side of things. It's your 3 daily wins. And this is all you have to do to be successful every day. I prefer that you do it from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. So, from what you do from 5 to 9 locks in your 9 to 5, because most people care more about your paycheck than you do anything else in your life, because I get it. It buys you your Starbucks or you're this or you're that or whatever it is. But for someone like me who is an author, a coach, and a speaker, it's probably you need to do that before you do anything else, because that's everything that goes into what you do from 9 to 5, because you do stuff like this with Oscar where you talk for a couple hours and work on your speaking. So you have the 3 wins. It's a physical win, it's a mental win, and then it's a spiritual win. So your physical, like I said, you'd be like, man, I gained 50 pounds like once I got out of the military, which is crazy. I think that just like overnight, I got that out of shape, but I wasn't working out anymore. And obviously I was drinking a lot and eating a lot. So 50 pounds came on pretty quick. So if you can't just walk your dog, or, if you live in an apartment and you're like, well, this, that, just walk the hall. Just like say, hey, I'm going to walk the hall like 4 times. Get up, whatever that is. And then that mental win, reading, writing, anything that like would allow you to grow. So, I mean, it doesn't have to certainly, for me, I read the Bible because like it was a book that like I had never read, the 66 books put together. I did that last year. And, this year I'm rereading it, got a different version. And then I also have the other books that I read just as part of, but then that's what I do for a living. And then when that spiritual side of things, it could be prayer, meditation. So like a lot of time before, what I'd do is do yoga, because then I could get my physical and my spiritual win. I'm all about combining stuff too, like, to become as efficient as possible, because then I can table some different ones to be like, okay, then my writing today, try to make the personal and the professional certain thing, but in its simplest form for everybody out there is that's just really going like, where do I start? Let's just start with your 3 daily wins, because it does suck to lose, right? Like, with the Patriots, they played in the Super Bowl just a couple days ago. I got it. Probably sucked. First time they'd been back in a while and they lost. Just think all the preparation it took for them to get there. And so we just want to start right now today. And doesn't that sound like so cool? Like if you start your day with your 3 daily wins, just can you imagine what your day looks like? I mean, that to me is like I hit the lottery now, because that's what I do before I do anything. I get those 3 in, and then it's like, okay, it doesn't matter what the day looks like. Just like talking earlier, I have clients all the time that like want to move, or, you have like just a discovery call. You're like, sweet, just ended a contract. I would love to get somebody else like on the team. Let's go. And, they're like cancel, or they reschedule, or when you do contact, I'm like, I forgot. Like that's always the worst one, I think, is like when someone's like, I forgot. You're like, wow, well, it shows you how important that is in their life, or so on and so forth. But that's a me problem. That's a Ryan problem. Get over it. It's meant to be. It probably would have not been the greatest professional relationship per se. So yeah, get in your physical, your mental, and your spiritual win every single day. And from there, it can only get brighter, and there's a lot more to it. Yeah. So it's stuff like this though that really fills my cup. So I appreciate it.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. And finally, where can listeners connect with you, explore our protective development, and plug into your podcasts and resources if they're ready to start tuning into their own breaking points into building points? And I'll list as everything that I can find on you. If you have anything specific, I would love to link it through on the podcast description and everything. But let us know where we can discover you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Ourprotectordevelopment.com is probably the most central hub for all products. It certainly has the link to Our Healer, Our Protector with Lisa Sander and Ryan Reichert, our Christian podcasts for, a couple of divorcees that have adult children and can kind of talk about having hope after, your first marriage doesn't work out the way you'd hoped. And free works for you. There's the 5-minute morning reset for those who wake up on the wrong side of the bed, and you can figure your day out in 5 minutes. I'm more of a person that likes to get yourself right before you go to sleep. So if you go to sleep on the right side of the bed, you wake up on the right side of the bed, you get off on the right foot, so on and so forth. And that's in our spiritual practices. It's certainly one that in a discovery call, we'll talk about it and get after where you want to take, your second chance at life, because I believe that today is pretty much everyone that, we all work together is they're finding their second chance because, first time around you got hurt, there's a lot of trauma involved and so forth, and just working through that. And then the next thing you know, you don't even realize that life was that bad, because it really isn't. It's just that we were looking at it, through a dirty window, and that became a mirror, and all we could see were our flaws.
Well said. Ryan, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for all your insight and your wisdom. You've been the perfect guest for me, and I really appreciate everything that you do. Can't wait for your TEDx, and I want to grab a couple of your books, and I'm doing that for all of the people I interview who have books. I'm making a bookshelf of everything that they've done, and I'm gonna give myself a year to just absorb everything that I didn't get from the podcast. And thank you very much for everything that you provided today for my listeners and for yours. And thank you.
No, thank you. Without you, I'm not here. So thank you so much.
Much appreciated.
Thank you, Oscar. That was an impactful episode. If you've ever looked at the damage in your life and thought, I'm the common denominator, Ryan's story shows that can be the starting line, not the end. We heard about small-town beginnings, battlefield success, addiction, and 27 months of sobriety that led to restored relationships, new dreams, and a mission to break generational curses instead of passing them on. They talk about owning your side of the truth, finding a battle buddy in faith, and building our protector development to help lead and serve from a healed place. Keep listening. There are more stories here that say you were built to break, but you were also born to heal. Adelante, siempre, por tu mente. Forward, always for your mind. This is the FYI I Am Damaged podcast.
In a bright green jungle where the tall trees sway, lived a little elephant who felt big fins. Every day Logan loved to splash and play by the riverside, but sometimes wobbly legs made him wanna run and hide. Tommy doing flips like a stormy shaking drum. A tiny voice inside and whispered, what if I can't have fun? Then Brandon the wise monkey smiled from the tree, said, little friend, take a breath, come and sit with me. Feel your feet on the ground, feel your hand on your heart. We're breathing together, that's how courage starts. I am strong, I am safe, I can do this. Breathe it in slow, let it out with a wish. When my mind feels wiggly like a monkey in the trees, I calm my heart down with my breath and my knees. I am strong, I am safe, I can do this. Step by step forward through this, scared and know what if. Even when my tummy feels funny and tight, I can still be brave, I can still shine bright. Next day in the jungle they played a game of tag. Logan felt the nervous pull, his body started to drag, but he remembered Brandon and the tools he had inside. Took a deep gentle breath instead of running off to hide. Breathe in the sunshine, breathe out all the fear. Stomped his big elephant feet and felt his courage appear. With the wiggle of his trunk and a laugh so free, whispered to himself, there's a lion heart in me. His friends saw him smiling as he joined in the game. They asked, Logan, what's your secret? You don't look the same. He said, when my thoughts get loud, I don't have to stay small. I breathe and move my body and I stand up tall. I am strong, I am safe, I can do this. Breathe it in slow, let it out with a wish. When my mind be wiggly like a monkey in the trees, I calm my heart down with my breath and my knees. I am strong, I am safe, I can do this. Step by step forward through the scared and oh what if. Even when my tummy feels funny and tight, I can still be brave, I can still shine bright. Little heart listening, this song is for you. It's okay to feel scared, that feeling's true. But just like Logan in the jungle so wide, you've got quiet, steady strength living inside. So breathe in slowly, feel your feet on the floor. Let your shoulders soften, you don't need to. Whisper to yourself when the worries rush through. I am strong, I am safe, and I know what to do. I am strong, I am safe, I can do this. Breathe it in slow, lay it out with a wish. When my mind feels wiggly like a monkey in the trees, I calm my heart down with my breath and my knees. I am strong, I am safe, world and showed the jungle, and now you show the world there's a strong-minded hero in every boy and girl in the bright green jungle. When the stars shine above, brave little hearts fall asleep feeling safe.